Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for 1 bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hi, friends. Welcome to an impromptu Sunday afternoon, July 3rd edition of Mavs Moneyball's Group Therapy. I am Kirk Henderson, and I am tired. I'm tired because, as those of you who are listening to the show live and those of you who are in the room know, the Dallas Mavericks have missed out on free agent guard Goran Dragic for what was my count the 4th time. There was the draft day trade in 2019 that fell through due to a variety of reasons. It was never, Tim Cato reported it, and then it just didn't happen. It seems that there was maybe not an agreement at all. So if you don't want to count that one, I get it. Then the Mavericks were associated with Dragic when he was traded when there's basically part of when his deal became guaranteed in order to get Kyle Lowry. There was multiple tie-ins. The Mavericks had an option to go get Dragic and never did. Then it was kind of widely expected that at the buyout he would join the Mavericks. That was something that was reported on fairly consistently by the Dallas media, only for that to not happen after the buyout, mainly due to what was attributed to opportunity, which I felt was a little peculiar because you can never have too many ball handlers, but that seemed to be more on Dragic's end than Luka. And now we have the 4th time where he has not signed with the Mavericks because the Mavericks are, as I understand it, sort of watching the market. And watching the market could be sort of coded terminology for waiting to see how the Kyrie KD thing pans out. But this really feels like the meme, the standing in the corner meme, where it's they don't know we're waiting for free agency to pan out, as nothing actually happens. I will say that there's going to be some notions and things out there where it's well, could the Mavericks afford this? Yes, they could. The $2.9 million that he signed is the veteran minimum for somebody with his experience. Do not let anyone tell you that couldn't happen. I've seen that twice already, and I'm going to scream. Anyhow, so come up here. Let's have your frustrations out. I don't know if I'm not frustrated with this in a vacuum because, frankly, things happen. I think I am just sort of, the notion that they need more wings at this point could be true, but by my count, I think they only have 2 people who I count that can dribble, Luka and Spencer Dinwiddie. And please, please, please don't tell me you think Tim Hardaway can run an offense. Not in this economy. All right. So y'all know the drill. Let's come up here and talk and hang out. Michael, how you doing, Michael? What's up, buddy? Couldn't get you on the other night.
I'm at a loss for words. even before we lost Dragic, I was thinking like, okay, if I had to grade how this offseason went, okay, yeah, I mean, it started out well, like, would trade, genuinely a great move, moved off expiring bench pieces, center offensive, pretty versatile offensively. Maxey and Powell there, they were getting overtaxed, but I'm just stunned at like how much this has gone off the rails. Like literally like a week and a half ago, I was feeling really good about everything. And I don't think that I literally do not think that anything could have, that it could have gone like worse, ever since draft night, basically. Like,
Yep.
Like,
and as a result of that, I'm seeing a lot, and like I think you need to put these things in two different buckets. The draft night move was really interesting, and it's a good move and it's a good gamble. But because free agency has gone so poorly, I've seen people start to increase the importance of the draft night move. The draft night move goes from being low risk to high risk if you need Wood to be good. Right now, the Mavericks need Christian Wood to be good. And I've got news for everyone. Christian Wood has never been good in a meaningful context. It's not to say it can't happen, but I don't like that kind of pressure on that sort of move. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many takes about how people about how like after we lost Brunson, about how they're like, it's no worries, like Christian Wood averaged like 17 points a game, he was a 20-point per game scorer like 2 years ago, he can replace Brunson. I'm just saying, like, dude, like you can't just subtract like Brunson's points per game and then add Tim's points per game and Wood's points per game and think, oh yeah, we're gonna score like this many more points. They're both play finishers. We have two playmakers now. We literally have two players on the roster who I can really think, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with them dribbling and passing at the same time. And we don't, like, right now, Jaden Hardy is literally our third ball handler at this point.
Hey guys, like I see the chat talking about this. I don't like putting that kind of pressure on a rookie. I have seen some bizarre takes from fans where it's just like, this is great. They know what they're doing. And, I'm of the opinion that over the longer term, the Mavericks have this really remarkable tendency for things to work out for them in the way, like Mike Conley, for example, back in 2016, like he started aging very quickly. Like Dallas seems to come out of these things okay. And yeah, you still got Luka Doncic. But after making the Western Conference Finals, this is just such a crappy way to keep things going.
Yeah. Like, I thought, okay, the way that they made the Western Conference Finals, I thought, okay, maybe, like, I was thinking, Nico's like a pretty new GM. Like, all right, let's, we made this big run, and let's see, like, what he's learned from how they made the Western Conference Finals, right? You had multiple ball handling playmakers in a 5-out system. You had 3-and-D wings and bigs, like, all playing their roles, right? And they proceed to lose one of the second best player, the second best playmaker, and signed 34-year-old career backup traditional center to like the second biggest deal he's ever had a month after you just played him off the floor, and the Suns had to rely on a minimum signing they signed during the season because he could actually switch and like provide some resistance in that in their schemes. Like they were turning to Biyombo ahead of him when the season was on the line, and we literally I think if you look at free agency, like there's actually not been that much player movement. Like, I mean, aside from Brunson, obviously, but like there's actually not been that much player movement in terms of how many like big dollar contracts for players that are moving teams. Like JaVale was actually like one of the biggest, like $20 million guaranteed, actually one of the biggest free agents that switch teams, and like I just don't get it. Like we if we look at how we played our defensive scheme, it's like a lot. It's like very aggressive, like blitzing, right. And like make like JaVale, like okay, yeah, he's a better rim protector than Powell, but he's not gonna switch like Powell. He's not gonna blitz like Powell. He's I would argue he's probably a worse fit for our defensive scheme than Powell. And like, okay, are we just going to go back to like a drop scheme now whenever he's on the court?
No, he's still pretty mobile. I just don't think he's 34. You're reliant. Like that's I don't know. Someone in the chat, Robbie Lewis says, do you think this is like the team that we're going to go into the regular season with? And no, I still think
it better not be. So
I got to get that out of the way, and that I still feel like that there's something afoot, or at least they're trying for something. But it's just not. I just feel terrible about this right now.
It better be. Like you lose. Okay. I mean, I don't want to rehash the whole Brunson thing, but I guess this is. I mean, I just kind of wanted to hit on what I was going to get at. The last green room, but just like if you look at Brunson, if you look at all the other playoff teams, their second options. Like Brunson, I mean, it's hard to kind of think of him. Oh yeah, he's not like an all-star, but he was still one of the most productive second options of any other team in the playoffs. Like he was still averaging like around 20 points per game, like even in the games where Luka was playing. Like it's still like a contract where you're paying him like $25 million a year. That's kind of the going rate for the second best player on like a contending team. Like it just, I don't know. I don't want to rehash that, but it's just losing Dragic. I mean, he was rough during the regular season. He didn't really get that much minutes with the Raptors. I mean, probably not just because of his play, but because he also didn't want to be there. But I mean, even in the playoffs,
incredible today, and in the day then yesterday or 2 days ago when they played Croatia, I'm pissed. He looks like a good basketball player because he's not an 82 game guy. If the Mavericks were to get him, you would have had him for I would have hoped for like 35 games, frankly, and then hoped he would have been healthy for the playoffs. That was like my expectations.
Right. Yeah, and then not to mention the locker room presence where it's like now okay. Like, I get that Theo Pinson is supposed to be like this like huge like locker room whisperer, but he's still like a young completely not proven complete he's not really there for like actual on-court reasons. And there's only so much I can imagine that someone of that kind of stature would have on the locker room. Like the combination of like Boban, okay, he's like an actual vet. Like maybe he has some cachet. But if there's Pinson there, like I kind of wanted Dragic, like not only for the 16 game presence he could have in the playoffs, but also, because for like the mentorship he could provide for Luka. And I was looking forward to that because it looked like, he was like a good presence like during their run or like during the run that they're having right now. And maybe to like reinforce some of the good habits that looks like Luka might be, trying to get into with his body this summer. And now that's just all out the door. And I just don't really I don't think Theo Pinson is going to be able to make up for that.
Sure. Well, Michael, I'm sorry we weren't able to get you on the other night. Thank you for joining today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
All right, have a good one. Okay, next we're going to go to the co-host of the Mavs Step Back podcast, one of the shockingly, though you may not know this, hardest working men in writing of sports, Matthew Galatzin. What's going on, buddy?
First time caller, long time listener. How's it going, Kirk?
What's up?
No, I mean, I just everybody who knows who I am probably knows how frustrated I am with all
You're
of this.
You're a big Dragic guy. You've been wanting Dragic for like 3.5 years.
Yeah, and it's getting to a point where, I mean, it's not getting to a point. It's gotten to a point where now I've accepted that it's never going to happen. And like you said a minute ago, in a vacuum, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But from the broader spectrum of things, it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. And we're getting to a point where, I mean, like, what are we even doing? The biggest move you've made this offseason is kind of a wash because you also lost Brunson. And then your big move in free agency is signing a kind of a, weird guy.
No, it's a terrible signing. I am okay. Like, I've sat on this for a couple of days and let it process. When Otto Porter Jr. signs the exact same, like, per year dollar thing up in Toronto as we just gave JaVale McGee, that is an awful signing. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You could have, I think I heard Dalton say earlier, you could have gotten Otto Porter for the taxpayer mid-level exception. So I ask again, like, what are we doing here? what is the point of, like, what could they be hiding? Because every time that the Mavs have had some big sort of grand scheme to do something that, they're waiting for, Danny Green, like a couple of years ago, and then they're doing all this other stuff, and they're waiting for things to happen, and they're watching, but nothing ever happens. It never materializes. It's the same thing every single summer.
Yep.
And it's a new GM, and it's the same old story.
Well, and then there's like the additional, and like we're just going to get this out of the way. I am never going to tell anyone how to run their business. If I ever get the opportunity to have Mark on the show again, I'm going to ask him some pointed questions, I think, about running the business. But one of the things that I don't understand, like I like this on one degree, but the other part of me is like, why is it happening? We know Mark is currently, right now, he is out there liking tweets of people who are talking about the Mavericks. He has sent multiple fans DMs and things like this, and it's just, I don't want to tell anybody how to use social media. Like, Mark Followell blocked me years ago for an asshole comment. I'm sad. I like Mark Followell, but it's how, it's your own social media. You get to use it how you want. But maybe as the owner of a basketball team during kind of a tricky free agency period, take Twitter off your phone so you don't do this. Like, I've embarrassed myself so many times over the years and wished I just didn't have my phone. This is one of those times where it's like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I bring that up just because it's like that stuff, at least for those of us who are really in the mix with this basketball stuff, it just makes the other like the basketball signing stuff feel worse because you're like, wait, you're DMing me while they're signing Goran Dragic. Real neat.
Yeah. I mean, look, Theo Pinson is their big signing. JaVale McGee is their big signing. They're trading for a guy who has a history of not character issues, but attitude issues. I mean, those are two totally separate things. And he's an expiring contract, and he's not guaranteed to be back next year. So where are you going with this offseason? You're coming off of a Western Conference Finals in which, quite frankly, you got dump trucked by Golden State. I mean, everybody was pretty much getting dump trucked by Golden State. But you're one or two legitimate role-playing pieces away from contending for a title. You needed a wing, and you needed another playmaker. Now you need two, probably, because Brunson's gone. So what do? You're basically doing nothing.
Yep. At this point, they need another ball handler.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, am I wrong, or is Spencer Dinwiddie forced to be a starter now? So who's running your team off the bench?
And somebody noted this earlier in the chat that you're reliant upon Spencer to be healthy. And Spencer, he's a great video of him doing some work today. If you see him, like, really, so I don't remember who shared it. Might have been the MFFL account that, I don't know, whichever one, but it was a really good one of him, like, doing some crazy stuff. But it's like you just don't want to rely on, like, you don't want to have that kind of thing, go sideways. Like the Mavericks got really lucky with injury history, and it concerns me a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, who's to say we aren't? I mean, I just saw this down in the chat too. We're one Luka injury away from being a lottery team.
Frank, Victor Wembanyama, here we come.
Yeah, and listen, at a certain point, and I won't stand up here and rant, all day about this, because I really could rant about just Dragic all day long. But at a certain point, we're now 3 or 4 off seasons into this. At what point are you going to make a move that's going to make Luka happy? That's like, oh, this franchise is going in the right direction. Because if he goes through this entire contract and they keep doing the same stuff every single summer, he's going to say, all right, well, I've tried this. I love y'all, but I'm out of here because I want to go have a chance to win a title.
I mean, that's what Josh Bowe and I have been on about since 2019. And people have quite reasonably said the Mavericks have time. And the challenge becomes, with every year that Luka looks better, it makes it more difficult. Like the road to success is not easy. And there's a lot of assumptions that the Mavericks, and I see this all the time from people who are really big, kind of just, I want to call them like super, like, optimists. Like if you're a fan of sports, you're big, you believe in your team, you believe in the ownership, like that's good. It's like there are people just like out there that think that this is not something we have to worry about. And it's because we were blessed by Dirk Nowitzki for a real long time. And I don't want to make any assumptions about what Luka does and doesn't want. He doesn't spend his offseason in Dallas. He does not like Dirk moved here. Dirk became part of the fabric of this town. And I don't expect that of Luka. And so it starts to get a little funky. And sorry, guys, if you hear bugs, I'm outside with my dogs. It just starts to get a little funky where you start to wonder, how much time do they actually have? He's on the first year of a 5-year extension, but it's really a 4-year extension because the 5th year is a player option. And, depending on how this Kevin Durant thing goes, like if Kevin Durant gets to go where he wants to go, which seems to be Phoenix, that's just sort of pretty telling about the power of superstars and this sort of thing. And I don't really want to test those waters with Luka Doncic. So how about we just make the team better? It's a really straightforward thing to me. Maybe it's not easy to do, but it's a simple solution.
Well, I mean, a great example of this is Jimmy Butler wanted to go play in Miami. Even though they were capped into oblivion, they found a way to make it happen. So if a guy decides that he wants to go somewhere, it doesn't really matter where he goes. He's eventually going to end up there unless there's some sort of hiccup. And I would bet money that Kevin Durant's going to end up at Phoenix. And in 3 years, when this is all starting to come to a head and the Mavericks' big signing next offseason is like, player X who's been in the league for 15 years and is, on a minimum contract, like JaVale McGee, I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to go back to where we were at the very end of the Dirk era, where we're struggling to stay above 500 with a bunch of role players, and Luka's going to request a trade, and we're going to get a bunch of draft picks, except, the Mavs are never going to draft well because they don't value it. So this is all a big overreaction to them not signing like a 39-year-old or however old Dragic is. But at the same time, it's not an overreaction because this is a typical, standard operating procedure of the Mavericks every single offseason.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you for hanging out with us. What are you going to do the rest of the day?
I'm going to do a bunch of grilling for the 4th of July, even though it's the 3rd of July.
Outstanding. Well, yeah, and so for everybody in the background, I'm outside and there are lots of cicadas. And then what I learned this year, along with cicadas, are these things called cicada killers, which look like terrifying murder hornets, like the big Asian ones you see on the internet that have invaded the United States. But they don't attack people. But one ran into me, and the noise I made, not manly. Matt, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll talk soon.
All right, later.
Okay, coming up next then is my guy Sam. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, what's up?
Can you sound good?
All right, good. Because I'm over here at my mom's, and I'm kind of in the country right now, so I don't know if my internet's great, but if you can, it's good. It's funny because I didn't even know this happened until I saw your notification pop up. So I saw that. I said, unfucking believable. And it's funny, like what Matt said. It's like, it's overreaction, but it's not an overreaction because I said it on Friday, man. Same shit, different day with the Mavericks. It's just, what are they doing? Like, the problem I'm starting to have is with everything that happens, they're more reactive instead of proactive. It's like he said, they're always waiting for, we got to wait for Kawhi Leonard to sign and then we can make our moves. Now it's like, we got to wait for Kyrie to get traded or KD to get traded, then we could try to make a trade or make a move. Like, go make a fucking move. You know what I'm saying? Just, like, go make your team better. Quit trying to wait for things to happen in order for you to do what you got to do. Like, go do it. I don't care. You can figure it out. Miami figured it out with Jimmy Butler. PJ Tucker went to the Sixers. I know it's just a different example, but James Harden declined his option so he can get PJ Tucker. Like, go make moves. We're just sitting there waiting, and it's just frustrating because you see.
Well, so I crushed this team. Now let me play devil's advocate for just a minute. Part of why this is all so awful is because they really didn't have any flexibility. It was Brunson and then hope for something with the taxpayer mid-level. And so when you don't get Brunson, everything else becomes magnified. And unfortunately for us, we never considered that Brunson wasn't staying ever until last week. And so it's just like a lot of this is processing elements of the fact that they're having to do a bit of a reset to where, like, everyone's out there. Dalton told me the other day, he's like, I don't want to hear any talk of tanking. I'm like, I don't think they're going to tank. I just don't know how good they're going to be. Like, you assume kind of a team with Luka has a 500 level floor. I think that's the case. But if you're the Dallas Mavericks, are you playing for the play-in after going to the Western Conference Finals? That's where all this starts to really, really get frustrating. And, I wrote just a piece right now that maybe they're waiting for the pieces to fall with this KD trade or, KD, Kyrie, whatever. But the reality is there's just not a ton they could do. They're going to maybe rearrange some pieces. But if I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I can't send out another first-round pick. Cannot happen. It has to be – you just saw what Rudy Gobert went for. The guy that we didn't want went for 5 picks. So if I'm the Mavericks, at a certain point you have to realize that this is like a asset-building situation where they might have to just sort of take this on the chin, and all of us are going to be pissed about it. But I don't really see what they could do just to sort of defend them for a moment.
See, and that's one of the problems I had as well, is because just of all the moves they made over the past 4 or 5 years, like with the KP thing, you didn't have to give him a 5-year contract. If anything, you have some type of protection on it, so then it's easier to move, so you don't have to pick up a Davis Bertans.
100%.
You
100%.
You could just pick up Spencer Dinwiddie, and then you're like, okay, you figure it out. Or even with the Rick Carlisle thing, I get it. Y'all have mutual respect, whatever. That's cool.
That was bad.
But he wants to go to Indiana. Get a draft pick. I don't care if it's a second-round pick. Get some picks. Get something, anything. But you just do it because we're nice. We're the friendly franchise. We just do whatever we want. And it's like, bro, you don't get assets. You got to draft guys that people want, even though they may suck. 2 years ago, Toronto wanted Taylor Horton Tucker for Kyle Lowry, and the Lakers said no.
Yep.
Just imagine if they traded him. I mean, who knows what would have happened. So little things like that, you never know. And the Mavericks don't do that. They don't do the due diligence, what they always say they do it, and I'm frustrated.
Now, I understand. The frustration is why I wanted to start this, in no small part because, when I sit there and look at Twitter, I get mad. I watched an interaction last night between Josh Bowe and Jake from The Ticket that it infuriated me as I watched it happen because Jake basically called Josh fatalistic. And Josh is pretty, I don't know, he's more of a hater than me when he wants to be, but he's been pretty low key. And it's just the thought that I had was if this was a conversation being had at a sports bar, the tone is different. But everything I read on Twitter, I just get mad. And so it's like talking now, I feel a little better. Already I feel a little better because I don't know. I'm not one to make excuses for the Mavericks, but I don't like that they let this happen. But the basketball sense of me understands why they did it. I just want Dragic.
Yeah, and it's just the thing is, it's just been frustrating and it's just kind of annoying and it's just kind of like, what are you gonna do at the end of the day? It's just kind of you figure it out type of stuff, and it's just kind of like I don't know. I don't know what to talk about no more. So, you just want it to happen. At this point, I'm just waiting for Summer League.
Yeah. And
just kind of see what happens. But, besides
that. Get unreasonably excited about future Hall of Famer Jaden Hardy. Is that that's the gist?
And that's it. And then, just see what happens in the rest of the offseason. But, I still feel like they got one more move that's going to happen.
I do too.
And I hope it's a move because at this point, remember last year we came in the season talking about they're not going to go into the season with 6 bigs, and then
they did
6 bigs. So if they go into the season with Theo Pinson, JaVale McGee, and Jaden Hardy, bro, I think I'm going to have a mental breakdown. So, but I'll let other people get out. I'm just annoyed at this point, so that's it.
Sure thing, man. Talk soon. All right. Wow. Okay. A lot of you want to talk. Was not expecting this for a Sunday afternoon. So, all right. Let's try to keep it somewhat brief because I don't like it when I can't get to everyone. Some of that's on me though, because I never shut up. Brian, what's up, buddy?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
I'm not outside anymore. I came inside.
I could tell. I was expecting you were outside in Henderson Manor, like in your luxurious backyard. Hey, eventually you're going to get that Mavs Moneyball themed pool in your backyard, and then when the Mavericks actually win a title again, you're going to just have everybody over for a barbecue. Okay, I'll try to be quick though. So I want to channel my inner Windhurst for a second, and I want to ask a question without you answering it, but it might be beneficial for everybody. Okay, so let's say the Mavericks don't have any other moves to make, right?
Right.
So Dragic has been actively involved with Luka the last couple weeks, so we're very privy to that. So obviously there's been conversation, there's been talk. there's been changes the last couple, like last offseason. This is the fourth time Dragic is not a Maverick, which sucks, but I'm starting to look at something here, Kirk. So there was a new coach, there's a new GM, but there seems to be a common denominator.
Sure, it's Mark.
Yeah. And why is that? Let's say hypothetically, if Dragic would have signed for let's say an MLE somewhere for like $20-30 million, it's like, okay, that's out of the Mavs pocket. But you're telling me hypothetically the Mavericks could have offered the same exact amount of money, and he could have played with his buddy that he's been playing with the last couple weeks, and he chose to go to Chicago, which I'm just like, what is that really telling you? Because hypothetically, you look at both. Would you rather play with Luka or would you rather play with DeMar DeRozan? I mean, I'm just, that's the way I'm presenting it. Like, I don't know what his reasons are. His reasons are his reason, but I'm just kind of looking at it just from, like, I don't really know what to say anymore. These people saying, because, like, I feel like, again, I want to commend you and Josh for being realistic since 2019 about, like, this entire franchise's approach on this offseason, because once Luka really started hitting this ridiculous level, everybody was like, free agents are going to come. Everybody wants to play with Luka. Does anybody want to come play with Luka right now? Now, a lot of that's out of his control, but I'm just saying there has to be a common denominator at this point. Rick is gone. Donnie is gone. Who's left?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I'm saying, because I'm trying to figure out why he would have picked Dallas over Chicago. Chicago's a very interesting team. Like, I loved, like, and it's funny because all the Chicago players that were signed last offseason, it's like, well, damn, I wish they would have listened to you, Kirk, and they signed Alex Caruso, but they didn't.
Well, I mean, that sort of stuff's different. I think I have to give both Mark and the front office some grace for last offseason, because, this either goes one of two ways. Like, the Mavericks had already come to an agreement with Reggie Bullock before free agency started, and that's either before or after Nico started. I don't really care. It worked out. So, like, last offseason is sort of it ended, they made the Western Conference Finals. And so you just, I don't know. I've seen, like, preliminary, like, Scott, CBA Mavs, has done kind of the preliminary math on how much the tax payment is going to be, and it's going to be a lot for this team. And it's not my money, but I do think, like we're kind of approaching elements of this where it's, when does the luxury tax start to become a factor with this team and team building? Because it becomes a problem quickly. I don't know.
No, you're right, because again, like, look at the two final teams in the finals. I'm pretty sure they were both two top 10. I think Golden State was obviously one, and Boston was up there. I don't know if they were 5. They were up there. So again, it's hard for me to say, Mark, like, pay the extra $10 million. Like, who cares? Like, but at some point, like, if my thing is, I'm sorry, I'll say this and I'll jump off because I know other folks need to go. Like, if the strategy was, okay, so we can't go over the tax, that's fine, but let's utilize our assets where we can benefit from going the other way. That's, like, the thing that's really pissed me off the last few years. There's no method at all. Like, if you had a plan, like, I know this is Nico's, like, kind of first official full offseason where he's, like, been there from jump, which, like, I'm like not as frustrated with him. But what is the plan? What is your method? Because, when you're baking something, you have to follow a recipe. I think they're just throwing shit in a bowl and think it's going to taste good because they have Luka. That's not always the case.
Sure. Well, thanks for stopping by today, buddy.
Yeah, take care.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's funny. 4th of July in 2016, I spent my entire day being so mad the Mavericks signed Harrison Barnes. I'm pretty sure it's still – I might have deleted them all, but it's out there somewhere. Matthew, welcome, Matthew. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
How you doing?
Doing good. So I had a couple points. I mean, is there any chance that, like, Dragic secretly doesn't want to play with Luka, and they're just like they're friends, but there's some because the cost related to like angering Luka or pushing him away. Like Luka's always said, I don't want to be GM. I'm going to stand away. It's up to the front office to do these things. But like clearly, it seems like he signaled that he wants to play with him. So like, given that he was available for a veteran minimum, to not sign him just seems unnecessarily antagonistic.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of the fact that we're paying the tax, like, yeah, it's not our money, but Mark, I mean, you're going to pay the tax for how many years? So you don't want to pay the tax for a mediocre team because that's just money down the hole, and you're only going to pay the tax so many years in a row. And there's the repeater tax and all that other stuff.
Yep.
But it just gets me back to, like, signing Porzingis a year early, unnecessarily. And then taking back these contracts and then signing Hardaway last year, which, you know, wasn't a great contract, and then him getting injured, and we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. It's just we have so many large contracts. The fact that this team is over the tax, given the talent that we have, is truly befuddling.
Yeah.
And not all that's on Nico. I mean, he just came, but, like, it's just a precipitous point of, like, additional just bad choices having collateral damage, and the fact we don't have picks. It's just, the team building. And it does fall on Mark's shoulders because he's involved in that, and he is the consistent presence. And so I'm upset for several reasons. It seems unnecessarily antagonistic to Luka. It seems like, to your point, blow it up or not blow it up. Like, if we were to blow it up, we wouldn't get net assets back because we would have to, like, our quote-unquote assets are going to cost picks to get off of some of the contracts. So, like, the only assets that we would, like, if we were really truly to blow it up would be Finney-Smith. And then he would be the only one that would, like, attract a lot of value or a decent amount of value back. Otherwise, blowing up means just getting off the bad contracts that we have currently.
Yeah, I mean, not to pull back too much, but for me, the time to move on from Donnie Nelson was the moment he left the draft room during 2020.
That's such a ridiculous story.
Yeah, and it's under talked about, but I point to that as I hold so much of where the Mavericks are to Donnie because he, number one, he's gone, but he buys his Cuban, he and Cuban come to decisions together, yada yada yada.
Yeah,
but it's just it's so difficult because a lot of where they are now is just based off of the missteps from 2019 and 2020. And I don't know how to get out from under it because even at the time I thought I understood it. But when you trade a draft pick to move from 5 to 3 to effectively get Luka for the Hawks, and then you send 2 picks out to go get Porzingis, the Mavericks have just been so hamstrung for such a long time. And I see a lot of the chat wanting to talk. I want to go to Colin Sexton. Okay. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. If you send picks in any trade now, I want everyone to understand that is the final trade the Dallas Mavericks are making in a big way during Luka Doncic's first contract because they're still out for this 2023 pick. Yep. So they'd send a 2025 and a 2027. That means they would only have a 2029 pick in their arsenal. And if you you're just basically leveraging yourself. And Luka's last contract is 25, 26, I want to say, is the player opt-out. Maybe I could be getting this wrong, but it's like you're essentially building for like 3.5 years from today. Like that's when, if Luka's unhappy 3.5 years from now, then we're in trouble. So you only have a limited amount of time to make, and a move for Colin Sexton doesn't move the needle for me.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah. It's not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it doesn't move the needle. Like you're giving up a lot and getting back what?
Yeah. And one other thing that I was contemplating in the wake of the Rudy Gobert trade. And this is just, masochistic thoughts.
Sure.
But, like, we couldn't get a first back in the Porzingis trade, given we're taking two horrible contracts back.
Yeah.
Like, to have the Bertans contract in and of itself, for them to get out of that and getting a quote-unquote better player, better, higher ceiling than of the 3 players is ridiculous. Like, I don't know. Like after the Gobert trade's like, okay, well Durant's not gonna get traded because there's not enough picks in the world if Gobert is getting 5. But like, and maybe that it was a depressed market. But like, you start going back even some of those moves, and it worked out. We got to Western Conference Finals. Dinwiddie was a plus, but now we're looking at the assets that we have, and there's just we're asset-wise, we're in no better shape. I know the idea was to break up Porzingis into 2 smaller but also equally bad contracts. I don't know. We can still move Bertans without giving up an asset along with it.
Right. And like, that's, I think, why, like, if you go read Mark Cuban's likes right now, he's like searching his name. And this is where it just, I am frustrated about moves over time that led to them to this point.
Yeah.
I am not frustrated necessarily with right now. I am also additionally frustrated with the constant narrative pushers from people who actually have like relationships with the team that want to keep those relationships, where we talk about, oh, this is fine. I just don't get that upset about Brunson, which is what I just saw Skin's producer tweet something to that effect. And I'm just like, why? Like, there's no reason to, all you have to say, like Corey said this, somebody said this in the chat, maybe this is the year the Mavericks take their medicine and just get through it and figure, like, that is fine. But we don't always have to paint the picture of this is for the best. No, it sucks is what it does.
And it's a tough medicine when you were in the Western Conference Finals last year. Like, this is especially tough medicine.
Right. That's all. And that's actually and it's just maybe it's a distinction without difference, because so many fans aren't in this the way we are, where we're like, thinking about it on a Sunday afternoon. But for me, it's just like, I want to hear that, you know what? This isn't what I expected. This isn't the way we were hoping it would go, but we still have faith in our long-term process, and we believe everything is going to be okay.
Do you think it's the Dallasness of it? Like, is it just like the old boys club? Like, we don't talk about these things? Because I don't feel like there's many franchises where you're like not allowed to voice frustrations and I haven't lived in Dallas since I was a kid, so I'm separated from this. But like, it seems unique. I
don't know if it's unique. I just think that like the Mavericks are such a small part of the sports media market, and Cuban and Jerry Jones have been, Jerry Jones obviously forever, Cuban going back 20 years. There's people that have real relationships, and I have obviously spoken with Mark. I don't know Cuban from anyone.
Sure.
I don't know, and I honestly don't really want to, because for me, I think once you form these relationships,
it's problematic.
It starts to cloud your judgment, where you're like, I can see things from their point of view. And I'm like, I can see things from the Mavs' point of view. I understand how they got here pretty solidly. Like, I'm honestly, like with the Brunson thing, I'm to the point of, I really think Brunson had made up his mind back in April from everything I put together. Yeah. But it still makes me mad that they didn't offer him as much money as they could to see if maybe that would have changed his mind.
Or signed him earlier, right? Like, sign him,
or traded him if you thought he was going to leave.
For sure leaving, yeah.
Like it's so uncomfortable, and so it's just like to voice those sort of thoughts. Sometimes you really get put through the ringer of I don't know, and it's just like, man, none of us have any say in this. I just want to be mad.
That's the point of sports, right? It's an emotional outlet for us. I don't it's not time for your friendships and your relationships. Like, I'm glad you have those, but like, we're not here for Mark Cuban's feelings. Like, he's not paying me. Like, I don't get any benefit. The only benefit he provides me is that he's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and part of that is being the punching bag when he does something stupid or the team does something stupid.
For sure, man. It's just, that's why we talk, though, because I'm not even looking at my Twitter right now, because it just, like, something about that versus this makes me so much angrier versus this. I'm like, I'm going to go have a margarita when I'm done talking to y'all.
Thanks for having me on, man, and happy 4th.
You too. All right, coming up next then, I keep saying we're going to keep it quick, and then I just don't. Jacob, what's up, man? Congrats on getting a liked Mark Cuban tweet.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I thought that was funny when it popped up. I was like, because this is what I wanted to kind of talk about. I didn't mention it the other day. Why? Like, he may or may not have a script that sends tweets to him with his name on it, but I mean, why is that important to him? Why does he care? He owns a team. He's owned it for 22 years. Surely he knows that fans want to win. So, I mean, watching the Bulls sign Dragic, I mean, as far as I know, this was a pretty simple move that should have happened. I mean, it's a superstar league, and I would like to keep Luka happy, okay? Because I don't think he's cut from the same loyalty cloth that Dirk is. So I think there was such a simple move that didn't happen, and now he's on Twitter liking tweets. I mean, grow up, man. Come on. Like, he's basically It's almost to the point where he's like Jerry Jones that made his money in the .com boom. Like, he just has to win his way, and like he's coming off as so insecure.
Yeah. I don't know. I always have interesting interactions. I don't think he would care that I shared this, but like after he and I did that podcast, he sent me a message the next day where he basically was like, "I just think you're all talking bluster," and I'm just like, I didn't feel like being an asshole to a billionaire on the first day I met you, and it seemed a little like I'm pretty fine. Maybe I should send him a DM with this invite, let him come hang out with us for a while. It's difficult because like he said something to me that has resonated, and I still think about where he's like, if you were in charge of the team, would you do the same thing I'm doing? I'm like, yeah, I probably would. And so it's like, it's what makes him really relatable and why so many people go absolutely to bat for him. Like the people where it's like, why are you a fan of the owner? And it's like, okay, but he changed the culture of the team, and that matters to a whole lot of people because the Mavs are bad in the 90s. But I also just, at some point, I would like for him to sort of take a step back and say, it's okay. Like, it's okay to not – a team can make mistakes. That's the other thing. Like, there's no – what I very much get frustrated with is just like a lack of, we messed this up. Like, Mark Stein said that on a Kevin O'Connor show the other day where he's like, the Mavs messed this up. Like, I don't remember in 10 years anybody, Dallas media, really saying the Mavs messed the thing up. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of at the point where, like, why can't he just be a fan and cut the checks? Like, you don't have to win your way. I mean, let the front office do their job, man.
He's got to sign the checks. And, I mean, that's where I hate talking luxury tax and math, but it's like, the initial payment for the luxury tax next year is like $35 million. And, again, understanding it's not my money, I'm just like, okay, well, what if you're like coming up with $35 million in liquid cash? Shit, I can't imagine, even as a billionaire.
Yeah, and I wish he would understand that he doesn't know everything about everything too. Like if you thought that Brunson was gonna leave, man, like sure, like if freaking Brian Windhorst can basically read the tea leaves and predict that the Jazz are gonna trade Rudy Gobert, there's just no way that you didn't think that there was that in all likelihood that Brunson was not going to leave for the Knicks, and ship him out, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He's just so arrogant sometimes. I used to like him, but now that I kind of like it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled because since I've been alive, the Mavs have been the best team in DFW sports. But I don't know. It's just like I'm kind of where Sam's at right now. Just make a fucking move, man. Come on. Like, I'm pretty sure we've gotten worse this offseason, and that's just like we're cash strapped. I get all that, but like, I don't know. It's just frustrating.
All right. Well, thank you, Jacob. Talk soon.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to Krishna. What's up, man? Give Krishna a second to find the mute button. Might be in the chat. Might be in another app. Sometimes, guys, when you switch out of apps, it gets all goofy with the audio. Krishna, we'll bring you up.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm okay. What's going on?
Not much. It's July 4th. I'm not really doing anything, but I don't know how to feel anymore because, like, obviously there was all the rumors about the roster spot, but maybe I was wrong. Don't you have 20 roster spots in the offseason?
That was how Frank ended up on the team. He was brought in last offseason your audio's really scratchy.
Oh, is it? Okay, give me a second.
It's okay. Just mute. In the short, like they brought in Frank for a.
Is that better?
It's basically when you're moving the phone around or something. That's all.
Okay.
They brought in Frank for a camp invite, and then he was on the team, and I don't remember who they ended up cutting. So it's like you can do stuff like this. And they'll probably bring in 20 guys. They'll probably bring in a couple of guys from Summer League and things like that. So
yeah, that's the confusing part. It's like, okay, yeah, you want a roster spot open, but you're gonna have 20. Like you'll cut someone. So like I just don't know why you wouldn't make the move now instead of letting other people do stuff. Like I get it. Like everyone is waiting for the KD shoe to drop, but like you still have to do other things. Like you can't just actively sit there. But I do agree kind of with the consensus, like this idea that so many mistakes have just been made year in and year out that it seems like this is the year where the Mavericks just swallow the pill. And like I know everyone like wants like all these big moves, like they want to go after Sexton, but I do kind of agree with you. Like I just don't want the Mavericks to ship out picks at this point, because if you're shipping out picks, then you're really resigning yourself to the fact that you're stuck with this team and you're just trying to get off bad contracts, and I don't think that's a good move. Like honestly, like I feel that you swallow the year. Like if you can't move off Bertans, or like Tim, if you're willing to move off Tim, like just swallow that contract for a year. I think both will have like 2 years left. Like it'll be easier to get off of them the next year, because we always get in the situation where it's like, oh, we should get off of them with 3 years. Like if you just wait another year, it'll be easier. Powell will expire. I think a few more contracts will expire. So it's like, yeah, the team is clearly more inferior than they were last season. But I don't know. I feel like this is definitely just not even a rebuild, but almost just swallowing the pill. And I don't know what to say, because I feel bad for the fans the most, like just all of us, because this sucks. Like you don't want to see a team that just went to the Western Conference Finals do this, but and also like I think Twitter is not the best place to get a reflection of that, because you go on Twitter and you see Warriors fans complaining about like, oh, the Warriors aren't re-signing Gary Payton and Otto Porter. It's like, well, they're still going to pay like $300 million in the tax. So I'm not sure if exactly that's if that should be a complaint. Like this team, the complaint that the Warriors don't spend enough, like that would be ridiculous. But I don't think it's the same with the Mavericks. I do agree. Like the Mavericks should be in tax part. Like I think you sign Brunson, it would be worth it to be in the tax at that point. But I think from my perspective, I think the reason they're not as high in the taxes, I think this might be true, is Cuban probably thinks like, I'm not paying the tax unless I have another star on this team. Like I realistically think that's what it is. And I don't know where you're going to get another star this soon. Like I think the Mavericks have to be realistic about free agency and use free agency less as hey, we're going to get a big star, and more as we're going to get really solid depth and role players in free agency, and stars we're going to have to either somehow draft or we have to trade for. And I think this is a season where you just take your lumps and you take all these bad contracts and you just suck it up, or like that you're losing a pick, and you try to be competitive, but you know that you're not going to be as good as last season. And hopefully you got guys develop, but like, I don't know, it's hard to be completely pessimistic and completely optimistic with this offseason, but I don't know. That's the thing. It's hard to say how I feel because I don't know how I feel. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that's probably like, I don't know how I feel is a much probably healthier reaction than I am mad. Someone who I communicate with online is like, are we really getting this mad about Goran Dragic? And it's like, no, but yes. And so it's like saying this just really doesn't feel all that great is probably the most reasonable reaction.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like, if I have these expectations, I think that makes it worse. Like at this point, I'm just kind of like, the only thing I expect from this Mavericks team is that Luka is going to be like MVP level. That's the only thing I expect.
Yep.
I don't have any expectations for anyone else. Like anything else that happens, I'm fine. It's a surprise. It's a wonderful surprise with this team, and it's just frustrating. But like we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I did want to say, I was listening back to the podcast. I appreciate your comment about my hair. That was very kind.
Hey, it's like 2 a.m. We were all excited. Like your audio just wouldn't connect. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it was so funny. I was away. It's like I wasn't even at my phone. So then I went back and I was like, I wonder what Kirk was saying about me. And then I was like, oh, that's very funny.
All right, man. Well, I hope you come back next time we do one of these.
For sure. Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, then, let's go to Tyron. What's happening? Tyron with a very good Luka Doncic Photoshop in his
icon. What's up?
Hey, man, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I'm being overly optimistic or, I don't know, maybe I've been in the sun too long, but I'm kind of glad we didn't get Dragic. I'm tired of hearing his name. We've been talking about him for 2 years now. He doesn't want to come, people. Give it up. For whatever reason, he doesn't want to come. Who cares? His best days are behind him. Whatever. Get over it, right? But besides that, Brunson leaving, if he wants to go play with daddy and sign a deal with the devil, that's on him. Again, I don't care. I'm more so excited about what Christian Wood and Luka Doncic are going to look like next year. Like, nobody's been talking about how dangerous that could potentially be. Like, holy fuck. Like, I'm super excited about that. And I know during the last regime, we would get young guys and we never developed them. I'm super excited to see what happens with Jaden Hardy under Jason Kidd. Because again, I mean, he's still a little rough and raw around the edges, but holy shit, he has, huge upside in the fact that he very well could find his way into the rotation and actually contribute later on in the season with the right kind of guidance. So, do we really want to go and blow up the team that made the Western Conference Finals and start from scratch and sign this guy, give away that trade and da-da-da-da-da? No, because that's what got us to the point that we are right now. I really feel like come March, everybody in here is going to be singing a different tune. And I really hope that's the case and not just blowing smoke. But yeah, I'm just super optimistic about everything that's happened this summer. If we make another move, cool. If not, cool. I'm just ready to get the basketball season back started and see how the pieces fall.
I think you are an absolute madman. But I will say there is nothing wrong with positivity. I also don't think that any of your takes are incorrect. I just hate putting weight upon a guy in Wood who really has a lot of talent but hasn't ever made it work where it matters. And then Hardy, I really like. I'm going to need to I'm really interested to see how he performs in Summer League because Hardy simply could not finish in the G League. And so if he can finish at Summer League at all, then I think that's going to make me go from being a little bit trepidatious to being slightly positive. Because one thing I do know, I feel very confident about is like if you just plant that man in the corner, he's going to hit some shots. But it's like the other stuff that I'm really curious about seeing. And somebody in the comments said he's going to be forced into the rotation. I mean, I think that's true. Because like the Mavericks need like people who can dribble, and Josh Green, that man likes to dribble, but everybody knows he's only going to dribble. He's not going to shoot the ball. So but yeah, I love the positivity. I'm sure people probably wanted to hear something other than doom and gloom. So
yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of what you said talking about Josh Green, how long did we just want to see him play? Just to see what he had to offer. You know what I mean? And you kind of stunk it up a little bit, but hey, now we know, right? With Jaden Hardy, I just want to know. I'm excited to know.
I'm glad. And we're going to find out starting Friday.
That's right.
So, all right, man. Thanks so much.
Kirk. Everybody have a happy 4th of July. Talk to you soon.
You as well. All right, let's go to David, who's been waiting a while. David, what's up? David, we still got you there? All right. Let's try to request back up. Maybe it's not showing the connection, but that's okay. We'll try again. Let's go to Grayson. Hey, Grayson, what's up?
Hey, Kirk, can you hear me?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. I would have rather spent the afternoon playing Mass Effect, but I'm talking to you guys, so that's okay.
Fair enough. So I have two things. I'll try to keep it quick. I think we've already hashed this out a little bit, but Mark's Twitter is just kind of really irking me in all the wrong ways. He's the only owner that I really see do this, liking tweets, being in DMs with people that have Jason Kidd mugshots, talking about base year compensation, all that. I just don't like the message, I guess, it sends about the organization. It just doesn't seem as professional to me. Maybe that's just my take on it, but it's just kind of strange, and I just do not like it. And then the second thing I have that's kind of more of like an open-ended question, you kind of hinted at it earlier, was I think this might be the year where we have to take the medicine, as you like to say, and take out another year on all of our bad contracts. So whether that's Bertans going another year, Powell becoming a free agent, and Timmy going another year lower, I think this kind of has to be the Hawks year that they just had, where they made the conference finals, and then they took a big step back and realized, okay, we need to reshift. I'm not sitting here saying we're going to do the DeJounte Murray level trade next year, but I think that's the move that we have to make to just kind of clear some of the terrible books that Donnie left us with, and maybe see if we can compile assets in that way. But I have a little bit of gloom. I think Jaden Hardy will have to play unless we get another ball handler, just because right now our only two ball handlers are Luka and Spencer. And what made our team really kind of good last year was having that third ball handler of Spencer coming off the bench and kind of being able to run an effective second unit. And so I don't know. I can't have JaVale McGee start. So I would rather, I guess, have Timmy start, but he looked not great in J-Kid's system. So I just have a lot of concerns with the roster, and I hope there's another move, but if it happens that it has to wait till next year, I think that's smart. I don't want us to rush into another move like Porzingis, but just kind of overall shitty offseason, I feel like.
So far. I just got another text that said, hey, just remember it's July 3rd. And I'm like, I get it. It's just the ones that, somebody – I didn't agree with this take, but I at least liked it, where it's like if the Wood move had happened, on draft night, we'd all be more excited. Like, there's just elements of this that feel like in a narrative arc that make everything feel a little worse. And that's, I think, why, to a degree, the sort of "why are you so upset" lectures that I see every now and again, where it's like, well, because people live in the moment. Like, not everything is this boring, dispassionate look at stuff. And if right now you feel like the offseason sucks, I understand that. And if they make a move that makes you feel better sometime in the next 72 hours, that's perfectly reasonable too. That's why I got online. I just wanted to talk about it for a bit.
I agree with you that if the Wood trade happened later, we'd feel better, because the Wood trade still doesn't address the issue that we don't have a bench wing to allow Reggie or Dorian rest, which is one of the reasons we lost to the Warriors, is that they were playing 40 minutes a game the entire playoffs and they got burnt. Yeah. And what was Josh Green had to try to come, or Frankie Smokes had to come in. And, I like Frankie Smokes potentially as a long-term growth. He's still young, but I mean, that's a big, big if. And then it also doesn't address any of the issues that we lost with Brunson. So it's just kind of delaying the inevitable Mavs sadness if you think, oh, congratulations, Christian Wood shows up, 2 weeks later than what he did. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I wish Mark would just kind of have less Twitter fingers. He's trying to turn into Ja of an owner right now.
Sure. Well, Grayson, thanks for hanging out. Talk soon,
thanks,
all right?
Kirk. Have a good fourth. Thanks, man.
Yep, I don't know what I'm doing tonight. My wife probably knows. I should probably text her. Brent, what's going on?
What's up, Kirk?
Oh, just, this. What about you?
I've got a few things on my mind. The first thing is just to get the Dragic thing out of the way. We either told him we didn't want him, which I can't envision, or if there is another move coming, like we keep saying, did we ask him to wait and he wasn't willing to wait? Is that what we're looking at?
I honestly don't know. Tyron said something a while ago where it's like, we just don't, he doesn't want to sign here, or we don't want him. And I don't know how to reconcile that with people we all value, like Mark Stein saying that the Mavericks are interested. It's just, I don't know how to reconcile all that. Things change, I think, is probably the easiest answer, where it's like, all right, this will work. It's like a kids, pair of friends in their 20s making a pact to get married by 40 if they haven't, found somebody, and then instead they just marry somebody else. I just hate it, because I think it makes basketball sense in a way that is sort of undervalued. But, if you don't agree, I get it, because again, he didn't have a great season last year. He is an older guy, and I don't think, you could rely on him to be a regular rotation player. I think he would be a guy that you have to treat gingerly, and maybe the Mavericks don't think they can do that. Maybe they think they need to really make a push. Brunson played a ton of games. Dwight Powell played a ton of games. Dorian and Reggie, Reggie missed a lot of time too. Like, if you need more guys that can just finish the season and play a significant chunk of games, maybe they were concerned there. Who knows?
Well, when you're Dragic and Luka making eyes at each other after one of these Slovenian games, when reporters ask you about the prospect of playing with each other, and you talk about, well, I don't want to get fined if I talk about it, and you're smiling at each other, you would think that would mean that all those rumors from people we trust had legs, but that leads me to believe that at some point in the process they wanted to wait on that, and he wasn't willing to wait.
I think that's likely. And asking your star player's mentor to wait strikes me as bad business, but what do I know?
And as far as Cuban goes, he's a very easy punching bag on days like this where something happens and the fan base is in a state of upheaval. I think we all have to accept it, and I don't know if I'm going to draw your ire by saying this, the guy's probably not going anywhere for a good long while, and for all of his things that frustrate you and a lot of other people, you've got a lot of good things that you've got to take with the bad, and it's that lumping together of the good and the bad that I don't think really that cognitive dissonance is really ever going to be assimilated, especially in moments like this, because he's never going to be the guy in the suit, slowly nodding from the owner's suite. He's just never going to be that guy. So you have to accept it and go, well, at least we've got, somebody who's passionate and proactive, even if that causes problems along the way.
Well, I mean, my challenge has always been what I want to know over the last 10 years, where were the benefits that came with Mark the first 10 years? Mark Cuban changed the NBA. There is zero question about that. The NBA that we have, he led the way. He brought people in to the organization, changed the face of the organization, et cetera. And then he just never changed anybody ever again until scandals started happening. And so that's my challenge is like for me, and maybe he and I will talk about this one day. What are the things that he as the owner still brings to the table that makes a striking difference in the world of the Steve Ballmers and that sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not Mark's fault, but if you're playing with the Mavericks had the ability in the 2000s to outspend everyone. The Mavericks, over the history of the luxury tax, have actually paid the 7th most luxury tax out of all the NBA teams. It's just they haven't paid any luxury tax in the last 10 years. And it's striking because I still want to say that he is very important to what this team does. I'm kind of the opinion of at what point is it why no other team talks about their owner like we talk about Mark. That's what I'll say.
Well, do you think there's any truth to the theory that winning the championship was so cathartic that maybe, even though he obviously still wants to win more, that it wasn't as much of a driving force and his focus got put into other areas, and maybe that's why things like canning Donnie sooner didn't happen?
Maybe. I think that the broken promises of Dwight Howard and relying on some of the things that they were hoping to from playing powder started a course of chaos that wasn't remotely self-correcting until they got Luka Doncic. Everything from that down, it was just as difficult. And that's the sort of stuff, it's like playing powder is frustrating, playing yada, yada, yada. But now it's been very challenging because I felt like they didn't learn from the mistakes of that era where they started building in 2019 to pair Luka with Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was nuts. I went back and read some of the stuff that Dalton wrote, and like at the time it was questionable for me because it's like, you have the star. Don't go get you have the star. And granted, some of these things it's just hindsight. And I just question. It's easy to point fingers in hindsight is what I'll say. It's just at the time I remember being very frustrated by some of the things the Mavericks did. And then it's just as the years progress, the path to success becomes harder. I mean, the likelihood of them hitting the Western Conference Finals next year is extremely low and was low before they lost Jalen Brunson. It's just playing basketball is hard. And now, where this stuff gets like additionally painful is like that sort of tears the Band-Aid off and makes it really evident that the Mavericks are likely like they're not going to be a top 4 seed unless Luka is like the MVP.
Yeah, God mode Luka.
So
I've got this theory now about Brunson that helps me understand it better, because when you draw a line and you put reasons to stay in Dallas and reasons to go to New York, there were debatable reasons that if you were making a debate, you could put forth reasons on either side of that ledger. But this whole thing with KD and listening to the talking heads talk about how KD has a lot less say about where he goes now because there's so much left on that contract. Now, you wouldn't want to be, if you were, like, say, the Raptors, you wouldn't want to trade for him without checking in with KD to make sure he wants to go there. But the general consensus is the Nets are going to do what's best for them. And that got me thinking about the Brunson situation in a different way. Because if you sign with Dallas because the vibes are immaculate and you just trust that you're going to be part of the future, the minute you sign, let's say it's, I don't know, instead of 27, let's say the Mavericks said we're going to do 525 for 125. You, as soon as they can trade you, whether that you become the most tradable, noteworthy asset. And so the question really isn't Dallas or New York. The question is, do you want to control your own destiny? Because if you go to New York and they're telling you, hey, we want you here, you'll be part of things, we're not going to trade you, what do you think is going to happen if you stay in Dallas? The rest of that sentence is, as soon as you sign, the clock is ticking because they will flip you and you won't be in control of your own destiny for the rest of your contract. And once I started thinking about the JB situation that way, it makes sense, because the calculus in his head was not Dallas or New York. It was probably a little bit of Dallas and then who the hell knows where, or New York. And he wanted to control his situation. And now what we're left with is like Matthew was saying, a dearth of assets to move. You can take this roster, and I think this is what's frustrating all of us. You can take it and slice it down the middle. You've got the parts that we can't live without and the poo-poo platter. And part of that is someone like Tim coming off injury. How much trade value is there in someone when you haven't yet shown everybody that you've come back from an injury that's fairly serious? Josh Green underperforming, relative to where he was drafted. Bertans, one of the worst contracts in the league, even though when he's on the court he has value. But I was thinking about it. Would you rather have McGee at $6 million or Bertans at $16 million? We just signed a more valuable player based on the contract than Bertans. Frank, as you call him, is replacement level, and we keep hoping that maybe he'll turn into more. Powell is an expiring contract, but if you traded for him, would you really play him or would you just cut him? You've got these pieces that seem like a far stretch from having value, and then you talk about the other side of the ledger. Man, I know we expect Luka to go into God mode, but we're not trading any of those other guys. We're not trading Spencer. We're not trading Dorian. So this other move that we all feel is coming, that you don't want a draft pick to be a part of, I have rapt attention as to how you can pull something off, because what they did with Wood, granted most of that was the draft pick, was exactly that. And if they can do that twice in an offseason and we don't see it coming, that will change how most people feel about the offseason.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I still think something is going to be attempted. I just don't see how they go into the offseason next season with so few ball handlers. So,
do you agree that JB was worried about getting moved off?
Absolutely, yes. It's just, for me, I still think you make him guess with the gamble. Like, the difference between 22 and 26 is a lot. The difference between 25.5 and 28 is less than. It's like
the difference between playing with Dallas and getting shipped off to play with Rick Carlisle is also a lot.
Again, right, for sure. No, there's some real truth to that. It seems like that from almost, like, if you were to trace it backwards, almost from the signing of JB's contract, like the fact that they let him have that kind of 4-year deal, they made a misstep in every sense of the word, where they didn't offer him the extension. They then didn't trade him at the deadline, and I think we will – this is a guess, but I think we will find out in the coming years that Brunson had more or less made up his mind to go to New York before the playoffs started, and then he blew up.
Yeah,
so,
he was playing like a man possessed, wanting to create the best eventuality for himself, and he did.
Yeah, he made himself a lot of money, even from the Knicks. So, all right, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, talk soon. All right, a couple more folks, then we'll get out of Dodge. Nick, what's up? You still there, Nick? Or how you doing?
What's up, Kirk? Can you hear me this time? Awesome. Well, I'm definitely bummed, and I've been kind of in and out of the room, so I apologize if I'm repeating stuff. But I've just got to believe that we must be in on this Kyrie thing, because to me, it seems like the only two teams who would want Kyrie would be the Lakers or us. I heard there were reports about maybe I think the 76ers, but I just don't see how that makes any kind of sense at all. So for me to see Dragic not sign here on such a – like when Luka has made it vocal in an interview like a few days ago that he wants his buddy here, I feel like there must be a little more to this Kyrie thing.
I don't know. They're either waiting for something involving the two directly, or they're waiting for the fallout of like, because it starts like kind of a cascade of things. And so I don't see how they can get in on it specifically. I think like Kyrie said he wants to go play in LA eventually. So it's like in my, if I'm playing Master GM where feelings don't matter, at this point I take a stab for Kyrie and then you try to get off your bad contracts. It's just the Gobert trade has changed the geometry. That many picks for a guy like Gobert is going to age like a banana left on the countertop. There's metrics already. Like he'll be really good for 2 more years, but at 1 year the Wolves are going to be paying 47 and 51 for him and Towns. That's hilarious. I mean, that's a ton of money. And so it's really the Mavericks are going to be figuring something out. I don't know. The more I talk about it out loud, I can't see them just go, saying, well, we're done.
So
all right, see you guys next year.
They think maybe history repeats itself and KD goes somewhere and we get the contract that one of those teams is trying to offload, I guess.
Maybe. I mean, the Kyrie thing only happens, I think, if the Mavericks can. And the reason I brought up the Gobert, I just remembered I started meandering, is I don't think Dallas, like the Nets would likely want a pick. And I don't think Dallas would be willing to give up any picks for a guy who, in all likelihood, would be a 1-year rental. I mean, he'd probably be a pretty entertaining 1-year rental. Like, it'd be phenomenal for me personally. Like, think about how much we could talk about Kyrie and be really upset at the dumb shit he says while all of a sudden occasionally having like 47-point games where he shoots 9 of 11 from 3. Like, that could be fun. But it seems unlikely.
Yeah. Is it safe to assume that Mark and Nico go and get Luka's advice though on decisions like this? Because it feels.
No, I don't think that's safe to say. And that's actually really concerning because when you see that Nikola Vujovic had a say in getting Goran to Chicago and like Luka sitting next to him in Slovenia, and then there's people, and so that leads people to draw one of two conclusions. Either one, Luka doesn't want him there, or two, the Mavericks don't really care what Luka has to say right now. And I just strongly think and that's not what I mean. It's just they're not going to him quite yet because he's not, until he flexes that muscle, the Mavericks probably don't want him to. Like, I kind of think like LeBron, for example, should have like 2 more championships if he just didn't try to play GM and let other people do the job. It's you get away with your superstar not voicing his or her, concern in a sports franchise for as long as you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess the thought process for them is that they want younger guys. They've got Dinwiddie, who they feel good about coming, another year removed from that injury. But I literally do not know who's running the second unit because I don't think it's going to be Frank. And it just feels like they absolutely have to do something. And they have no money. So, I just feel like there has to be a trade coming.
For sure.
All right, man.
Well, thanks for joining back in, Nick.
Yep.
Talk soon, all right?
Thanks.
Okay, let's go to Lyndon. What's up, Lyndon? Are you really, really ready for Luka and a 50% usage rate? Give Lyndon a second to find the unmute.
Hey, Kirk. Sorry, I'm at the gym. I can't talk anymore. I just have one question. Why is Mark Cuban liking those tweets? I'll leave. I just want to know why he's liking those tweets. That's all I want to know.
He's at his heart, he is one of us, and probably can't help himself. And that at one point makes him exceptionally relatable, and at the other point makes you probably want to pull your hair out. Have a good workout, Lyndon. All right, let's go to Cliff. How you doing, Cliff? Hit that unmute one more time for us once you're out of the chat. It's an outstanding profile photo, Cliff. All right, give Cliff just a second, and then we'll move on to our last speaker. All right, Cliff, try to come back up if you want. Let's go to Will. Hey, Will, how you doing? Thanks for waiting.
Hey, Kirk. How's it going,
It's good.
man?
What's up?
Hold on. Let me open my notes app real quick. I had a few points.
I love it when everybody gets prepared for this.
I've only been in one of these, but I always think about shit that I want to say in these, and then don't end up joining the room at the right time
It's
or whatever.
good process.
But,
I like the notes. Go ahead. Tell me what you got.
First thing that I have on here was this was a fucking gimme. This feels like this should have been easy, or maybe it wasn't, but it felt like. Come on, it was very obvious that Luka wanted him to be here, and this, I don't know. To me, maybe I'm wrong here, but to me, it feels like this is like a Cuban's pockets move, and that really pisses me off. If you can't afford to run a team with a Supermax player on it, sell the fucking team. Basically, is my thought on that.
I don't want to say anything that'll get me in more trouble.
Understandable. Yeah, I feel you. I hope that Mark has at some point listened to one of these. I want it, that would be fucking incredible if I found out that Mark Cuban heard my voice saying that he should sell the fucking team. But okay, I think you might have been who tweeted this, but it's crazy that I'm saying this, but I think that I like the idea of the possibility of us being the team that Russ gets offloaded on, just so that we can clear our books a little bit. If they would take our, if they don't want to attach, if we wouldn't have to attach a positive asset, I would honestly kind of love that, even though I'm not really a Russ guy. I would love that just because it would clear our cap as far as I know. That I don't know a ton about how that shit actually works. So maybe we would still be in cap hell. If we would, then absolutely not. But if that would help us, I think I would like that. It would be terrible for a year, but I think it could help us in the long run.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would probably be very frustrating, but I don't think that it would be the worst thing ever as long as it did actually clear up our books a little bit. I don't think that there's a chance in hell that we're getting off of Berton's contract no matter what, but I would love to get off of Tim Hardaway. That would be wonderful.
I'm interested in. I love Timmy. I have a special place in my heart for him. So I'd probably be sad, but I do understand why people are kind of done with it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like him carrying us against the Clippers will always have a spot in my heart, but I don't think that he really has much of a place on this team. Maybe he's being forced into a role on this team because we don't have any other option. Yeah. But I don't think that he really has a place, if that makes sense.
It does.
I don't think that he's a great fit because we all saw last year. Bro is a chucker that is probably a bottom 10 defender in the entire league. That doesn't fit. That doesn't really mesh very well with what we're hopefully trying to do.
Right.
Another just quick little note. I'm sure we've all had this thought before, but just the fact that Davis Bertans is getting paid as much as he is fucking nuts. What was Washington thinking? Like, that's just so crazy. I mean, like, I understand why we had to trade.
He shot like 43% from three for 2 years. He was bananas. I agree.
Yeah.
Like it's nuts.
Even like, I remember thinking at the time, like, damn, this guy's nice, but I feel like he's about 10 mil a year nice, not 17.
Right.
One more thing, why JaVale? I don't get it, and I feel like I'm going to be yelling at my TV a lot if we have to watch him start next to Christian Wood.
Yep. We're going to see, though, because, I mean, I think the real deal is that they view Wood as kind of a tall wing, not as much of like a center or a forward because of what he can do. And the theory there has to be you have Wood on the outside playing more, a more dynamic role than some of the other players that they had in the 5-out spot. That's just got to be it.
Yeah, and I feel like offensively it might be a little clunky, but I feel like I kind of actually like the idea of them together on defense because like Christian Wood's only real strength on defense is moving his feet. He's not a shot blocker. So defensively, I think it could be okay. I mean, he's not like switchy, but he can, So
right.
I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, we're losing you, Will.
I feel like that's going to cause a lot of yelling at the TV. And
maybe.
Josh Green.
That's not any different for me.
I'm probably driving into a shit. What was one more thing I wanted to say. I forgot what the hell it was. Oh yeah, you have got me on the why the fuck is Josh Green not playing summer league train? Yeah. I just hope to God that it's because we're shipping him out. Because if he doesn't get traded and maybe they're trying not to tank his value also because like he sucks.
Yes.
But there's still a small part of me that is holding out hope because it's like the potential's there, but the guy just can't play basketball.
I think he'll figure it out. It's just he's not going to figure it out on the Maverick timeline.
I don't think so either. It's like if we want to wait for 2 more years, then I think Josh Green's. I think he's going to be fine eventually. I think it's just again just so frustrating looking back at it. Like, why did we take a project? Why did we take a project wing? And he could fulfill some team needs in a couple of years, but like we're just not in the place where we can wait for that. God, just so many frustrating, idiotic ass decisions from the former front office that we just can't do anything but shake our damn heads at, and it sucks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining. Yep. We'll talk soon, okay?
Absolutely, man. Have a good one. Happy 4th.
Thank you. We've had some more people request to join in the meantime, so we'll go with it again. Cliff, let's try again. See if we can get the audio worked out.
You got me this time?
There we go. Is that a sprinkler I hear in the background?
I have the cicadas.
Oh, you have the cicada problem too. Yes, it is wild. My God, there's so many of them.
Yeah, so I guess I wanted to ask. I'll start off pessimistic here. This is the worst offseason since?
I don't know. Power ranking off seasons puts me in a dark spot, but this one doesn't feel like this one is on like 2019 was the one that really made me upset because they had set themselves up to do a lot. This offseason, a lot of stuff is out of their control. So I would probably put it more in the kind of like 2016 range where I was really upset about things, but in hindsight, I didn't understand that the Mavs just weren't in a position to do much.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. No, hopefully they have a history of kind of fumble farting around into like something semi-decent after crap hits the fan, and so hopefully we can do that one more time. But I guess I wanted to point out, I wanted to be a little bit optimistic here. I don't think that – so, like, we're kind of crapping on the front office, and I think it's deserved. Let me first say that. But at the same time, it's kind of just like the culmination of a lot of small details that have been messed up, and they're just kind of piling up. It's not like they made any one huge mistake other than maybe if you want to argue for trading for Kristaps Porzingis. But really we're kind of looking at like extra years on some contracts like Trey Burke, Marquise Chris, now JaVale McGee probably. No protections on KP's contract. Not getting a pick for Rick Carlisle when he was like the most coveted head coach of the offseason. Just this stuff kind of adds up. And then looking forward, they've done it again with this JaVale thing. Just if it comes out that they used the full taxpayer mid-level on JaVale and they cost themselves a year of control on Hardy, who's 19 years old, like we're just looking at more of it. It's not like they've done any one thing that's a huge mistake, but these things just kind of add up, and they added up with Brunson and kind of led to him walking like this. It's kind of what happened here, but it just kind of looks like we're doing same stuff, man.
Yeah. I understand.
So hopefully Hardy flashes pretty quick, because they've got 2 years to figure out if he's worth keeping around.
That's right.
Or not.
That's right. All right, Cliff. Well, thank you for joining.
All right.
No,
problem.
just something else.
Sure.
Go ahead. My wife just yelled at me, so
I got one more question for you.
Please go. Yeah.
Do you think, and a couple of other speakers have mentioned it at this, but do you think they need to take like a slight step back this year? I mean, obviously they're not going to openly tank with Luka on the roster, but like to me, like I don't see a reason why like Maxi Kleber should be on this team. Like, why wouldn't you cash in, get an asset from Maxi? That's assuming he can get something. You got to think about Reggie, right? If the right deal comes up, like that's just kind of the boat we've been put in with Jalen walking for nothing.
Yeah. I completely understand. Oh man. All right, Cliff. Thanks for joining. We'll talk soon. All right.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right. And my wife just got home, so I'm probably gonna have to go soon. Pete, what's happening? Incredible profile photo, Pete. See if you can find the unmute button, and then we'll give it a second. And then I may head out for the day. All right, guys, I think this has been fun. Fun insofar as it can be. I just got a text from friend of the show, Tim Cato, that he would like to join and hang out for a second. So let's see what he says and see if he'll be willing to come up here on stage and talk with us for a minute. I think he just discovered that Mark is liking tweets, so maybe we'll see if he joins. Jacob says Tim should announce KD to Dallas. So, yeah, guys, I am unclear what's happening. This is great audio because now I've just kind of ran out of stuff to talk about. There's Tim. How you doing, Timmy? What's happening?
What's up, Kirk? So I have some breaking news. The Mavericks just traded for Kevin Durant. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
The chat actually said that before you got in.
I know. I saw that. Sorry, I'm kidding, guys. I'm joking. This is not a team that has. This is not a team that has the assets to build.
Do you want to know what might have been? Do you want to know what might have been an asset to get KD to Dallas? A extended Jalen Brunson along with Dorian Finney-Smith and all of their first-round picks.
Oh, boy. But, I mean, that never could have happened, right?
Probably not. But
I mean, I have said this. This is not a new thing I'm saying. But I have said that I do not believe the extension was realistically on the table.
Right.
Mid-season. I think it's possible. And this is, I guess, a little bit of informed speculation. that the Mavericks didn't offer the extension. I don't believe Jalen would have taken it. But by not offering it, they did indicate, yes, we are viewing you as a tradable player if it came to that, right? That is why they did not offer, and the same went for Dorian. They maintained the flexibility of being able to trade him mid-season. And I'm not saying with certainty that Brunson was mad at that, but I think it's not unreasonable to speculate that a player might see that and be upset by that, right? Yeah. And again, this is kind of how athletes think. It's, every time a lot of we talk about analytics, and it's like, okay, well, a player, realistically isn't going to overperform their 3-point shooting, stuff like that. Players want to make every shot. The player mindset is fundamentally different than the way we analyze them, because, you should want to make every shot. You should want to win every game. Even as obviously analysts, we know that isn't realistic. And so I could see that being I don't think it was the main factor by any means. I think it's down the list. We know all the main factors, or we know what the main factors would be, whether it actually was money or not, or certainly we know that just the New York influence, the family ties, the CAA ties. We know about all that. But I could see Jalen being in a position, due to that extension not being offered mid-season, where he didn't feel appreciated in the right ways by the team. And I'd be interested. I have been asking, it's still very fresh. Hopefully over time people will start being a little more honest and forthcoming about what actually went down and what the reasoning were. But if you're thinking about, that to me is what's interesting about the midseason extension and the lack of the offer there. Because I think it's very clear at that point that he had outplayed the 4 for 55.
Yep.
Yeah. What else do you want to know? I'd be I'm bored. I'm putting off a couple chores I need to be doing right now. So if you want to bring some people up who have questions for me, I'd be happy to do that for 5-10 minutes here.
Well, my question is for you is are as far as you understand it, are they waiting for the fallout from a KD Kyrie trade, or are they waiting, or are they attempting to get involved in that deal to be like a facilitator type team?
Yeah, I mean, I know that this has been reported by others. Stein reported this, but I have also I heard what Stein reported was that they were okay with their roster in the sense that they were going to see what they could do with that final roster spot. I think you pointed this out.
Hold on.
They don't have to bring back. What's up?
They have 2 roster spots if they cut Frank.
Right.
I think they should this is some Frank, team put out propaganda. We only have one roster spot. If the option is
Frank or Goran Dragic, which one's going to be more useful next season? It's hard for me to not think it's Goran Dragic, right?
It's Goran Dragic. This is a anybody that says otherwise is hopeful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I also heard what Stein said, or Stein reported, that they were content. I don't think from a logical standpoint you can look at the roster and think that it makes much sense unless they make a trade. And so that's, I tweeted something to that effect, I think Friday night, or maybe Thursday night, I don't know, it all blurs together, that I would be surprised, or I anticipate, or I was anticipating that the Mavericks were probably shopping around, that trio of players of Hardaway, Powell, and Bertans, and those are the 3 that they're starting with. But I would imagine they're talking to other teams about something to do with that, just because, again, like we said, logically the roster doesn't make sense without
but it has to be
and without a wing.
Something like that has to be a salary dump, because we just saw Rudy Gobert go for 5 first-round picks, the equivalent. You're offloading those players for picks, and the Mavericks are startlingly starting to look like late-stage Cleveland, where they have to remove – and I'm talking about during LeBron's first run – where they have to move things, like they have to give up future assets to get out from under bad contracts. And we've been talking in here for about 90 minutes where I sort of think that this has quickly evolved into the Mavericks doing a sort of, take your medicine year where, the West has gotten significantly better. If Kevin Durant moves to Phoenix, which seems to be a I don't want to say likelihood, but it seems like it's progressing towards him, playing a Western Conference team. If Kyrie ends up on the Lakers for Russ for 2 first-round picks or whatever, as the Lakers decide to give up, like the Western Conference is hard, and the Mavericks have taken everybody. It's weird. Like Skins producer Kayfun tweets, whatever. I can't. Kevin is his name. He's like, I just don't get that upset about Brunson and Goran. It's like, but and other people in the mass media that are basically like, I'm not getting all bothered by this. Like the Mavericks are taking a step back by default. And there's an argument to be made that even if they had Brunson on the team, they might take a step back just because the West has improved so much. So it's like this is just starting to feel like sort of at least on paper, a really challenging year for Dallas.
When all signs were pointing to Brunson coming back to the team, I felt a sense of optimism as an analyst about what they could do with a contract, with a player like Brunson, to use the financial terms, an asset like Brunson.
Yep.
I hate using those terms. He's a person, but in that sense, like they did have salaries that were like in the right range of money to pair with a legitimate player that other teams would be interested in if they had hypothetically re-signed Brunson. And like you said, in some filler around the edges, whether it's Dorian, who I know he's as close to being untradeable as anyone is that isn't Luka. But if we're talking Kevin Durant, again, wouldn't have been super realistic. But it's at least you at least have that conversation. And whether it's Josh Green, whether it's future first round picks, Brunson and salary is a workable trade package for this team, right? Or would have been in a hypothetical scenario where they brought him back. Certainly, if they brought him back, if they gave him the extension before the season, even more so. But it was looking like they had a path to a bunch of salary, a bunch of players with the right types of contracts that they could be trade players. But it's harder to see that for all the reasons that we've said. They don't have that much to trade without having a fairly young, interesting point guard, who was kind of like that B tier, trade chip that they could shop around. And so, yeah, I agree. It's a lot more difficult to see how this team, for a while I thought they were setting up purely to work through free agency. But then they go give a contract to JaVale McGee that has a player option in the third year. So it does seem like they've quickly reverted back to the idea that their future team improvement will be trades. That's the only avenue they realistically have available. They don't have draft capital, and they don't have the opportunity to get cap space before, I think, 2024.
It's bad.
Yeah. And so, but to work. But to be a front office that is working to team build through trades, you have to have things to trade. As I'm saying obvious stuff right here. And without Brunson, I think the outlook of what they have available to them is a lot worse. And so yes, they're probably waiting to see if they can swing in as a third team for one of these two massive deals that we rightly anticipate is coming from Brooklyn. I would imagine that's probably where they're at right now. But it's trickier. Yeah.
So I have two sort of related questions. The first question is, are they actually married to Frank Ntilikina? Because I think like him being the roster spot thing, like that's going to drive me crazy because Frank is fine. Frank is replacement level. Then the second question from Jose in the chat was, why is Green sitting out of Summer League?
I'll go second question first. I have no clue. They've always been very coy. That's not the right word. They've been hesitant to get their, like Josh Green didn't play last year, and
which was embarrassing.
I don't know why he didn't play last year, and I don't quite understand why he's not playing this year. It seems it would seem to make sense to me for him to be playing. So
yeah,
somebody made the I haven't
point.
Asked around. I can't.
Someone made the point earlier of like they're concerned about him continuing to drive his value down, and I think there's something to that. Because a third-year player that struggles in summer league is essentially on his way out. Like Tim and I have seen some brutal summer leagues. The Ricky Lito experience is probably one of my favorites, where it's just like that guy in his second and third year, he just couldn't do anything. He wasn't a good basketball player at the NBA level. So
I think that's fair. I think that could be the reason. It is something I'll making a mental note right now. I'll ask about that and see if there is a clear reason or not. I would agree that I am fairly pessimistic about Josh Green as a viable rotation player in the coming years. But even from an optimist standpoint, summer league is not a good. His skill set doesn't fit perfectly with what summer league basketball is, right?
Sure.
At this point, what he does well is very, very complementary and feeding off other players. So it could be that. The other question was Ntilikina. I mean, I think they should keep Ntilikina. I think he's young. He's 24, right? Like, he's younger than Brunson. I think that's a good player, a good type of player, a good archetype of player to have on your roster. I think it's worth keeping players like that around. I don't know if I agree with the decision that it should come at the expense of Dragic. Yeah. Which, again, if we're thinking logically here, it does really seem like it sets up for a trade. Like they have to have something in mind. I am with you guys. I'm with I've seen Matt's, I've been reading Matt's Twitter. Obviously, I'm online. I've been tweeting in a couple days, but I agree that if this is it, if all they get is a bargain bin wing, as extra depth, or a bargain bin point guard, if that's the conclusion of their summer, it's bad. I don't think this was not an effective or productive free agency. So I'm still logically thinking, holding on to the idea that they probably have more coming.
So my next and understanding, I'm thinking about these questions of things I don't want to. Please just tell me if you don't want to answer this. Yeah. One of the narratives that I have been that has actually been driving me insane is that Nico Harrison came in to run the Mavericks, and I have been a fan of this team for far too long to think that Mark Cuban cedes any control. As far as you understand it, is it still a very much a group decision-making thing between head coach, GM, and owner, or is Nico Harrison the kind of like the captain of the ship with Michael Finley as his first mate?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that Nico's main strengths, the what he brings most to the Mavericks, is a level of professional organization that they have never had.
Actual job responsibilities, and people do, you have you have an office manager, and I'm just being facetious here, but it's it really sounded like Donnie Nelson's front office was the Wild West of insanity, where people didn't know who to call to make trade discussions.
Right. And I think he has completely reworked how the team operates. I don't know to the extent that, and honestly, that's totally fine. They needed they needed organization. They needed top-down organization and professionalism. And it is good that they got Nico Harrison to provide that. And understanding that Nico, did not come from front offices, has a different career trajectory. I don't think you need to bring in a person like that and then say, this is going to be the person who provides basketball ideas to be executed, as much as being the top-down orchestrator and someone who collects all the information that is provided to him by others and then makes what the logical decision is based off that info. I think that is a perfectly valid way for Nico's role to operate. I get the sense to some degree it is like that. I don't know to what extent. Obviously, we all saw the video that Mark tweeted. He's always in the room. So, I think it would be silly to think that, he doesn't have as the same amount of influence he's always had, as is his right and as has been his his MO over the years.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah, who is most driving where the discussions go? I think is a very good question that I don't have a.
I mean, I think it probably has
certainly
to be
not on a Spotify Live. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I'm just. That answers my question, and basically, and as a fan, I will say I am okay with that because, I will draw back to Cuban always like saying to me, wouldn't you do this if you own the team? And the answer is like, yeah, okay, like I get it, like maybe one day if he finds something different, it's a different story. All right, I want to say, I saw a really good question in here. Do the Mavericks extend our guy Maxi Kleber?
That's a good question. I don't have a sense of that yet that I could say with reported intel, whether they do or not. There's no rush to do it, right?
Right.
I feel like
the whole year, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like it feels like every free agency,
and you can't trade him if you extend him.
Right. I could envision speculating here that they do the same thing that they did with Dorian and Jalen, and they wait until after the deadline to offer him something. Because I also think you need to see how he looks in the regular season, right?
Yeah.
There
are times where he looks like a car on his last legs, and then there are times where he looks incredible. Like his lower body health is very interesting. That's a good one.
Yeah.
This is another good question from Corey in the chat. Pinson over Dragic. Is there a real argument that Pinson helps this team more, not being sarcastic? I mean, my kind of piggyback off that is, how do you sign Pinson right now? How is that a thing?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're wrong to think, like the Mavericks have been saying they view him with some development potential. I remember even on his very first 10-day that I thought he brought a spark of fresh air and like just a little bit of ball movement. I remember way back then, there was the COVID ravaged times, that I was like, that's interesting. And the Mavericks had been down so tremendously bad at the time all those COVID outbreaks happened.
Right.
We all remember how watching those games felt like suffering. Like you were just being masochistic.
Masochistic, yes, very painful.
Masochistic, thank you.
I can write. No, I can't say any word right. Are you kidding me? Oh.
Okay, yeah. Oh, what are words anyway? I don't think they're wrong to believe there's some development potential.
I do.
I think that he could become a useful end of bench emergency. I don't know if he's a rotation player.
No, he's never going to be a rotation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think his ceiling is probably somewhere below rotation player. But the idea that he could be useful when there's injuries, useful, as a sometimes you go to him guy if you need something a little bit different. I don't think that's crazy. And I do genuinely believe that if the team, if the coaching staff, if Jason Kidd and his assistants are building a culture and they have someone who reflects it and the manner that Theo Pinson does, I think there's value in that. I don't look at signing Pinson as a Goran Dragic either or. I think it's much, much smarter to look at emphasizing McGee,
right?
As the MLE guy, a decision to not sign Dragic. I think McGee signing is much more impactful on that, and the keeping Frank Ntilikina is much. And again, I don't disagree with Frank Ntilikina either. It's the JaVale McGee one that I am curious about, and if they don't make a trade, they have too many centers, and that's why they would be down a roster spot that otherwise could have gone to a ball handler. I think most of us thought would be a good fit here.
So I don't understand the McGee move. They played McGee off the floor. McGee is 34 years old. He is an asthmatic, which is why he doesn't play. He's rarely played above 20 minutes a game. He's highly productive, but he's also a bit of a stat padder. So what gives? What is this deal? Because I'm
Callie Kaplan wrote a story where it's like, oh, this is a new Lob City, and I'm just like, what? So explain that one to me.
Right. I mean, it does seem likely that they're going to try doing 2 bigs next season, right?
I can't believe that's the answer.
I mean, certainly with the way the roster is set up right now, right?
Yeah, Wood is more of a wing that's tall, if we're honest.
Right.
So it's like he brings, like, to use football terminology, like Wood in theory is a player who can he's more multiple. Like Wood can put the ball on the floor, shoot, pass. He can do a little everything. It's just he's never done it in a productive situation. So it's like I guess I get it. I'm still just like wigging out because again, it's JaVale McGee.
Right. It's very easy to project what Christian Wood would be on the Mavericks if he was their starting 5. It's not crazy to think that he could be successful at the 4, but it's much less of a guarantee. I guess that's the way I would view it, right?
Yeah.
Like you are putting a lot of faith into a player to be if you're going to play, Twin Towers at almost all times. You're putting a lot of faith into a player who has not fully earned that faith. And they might be right, but they might not be. And, him as a 5, I felt very confident that was going to be successful, that we knew where the drawbacks could be, and they could outweigh the pros. But I thought the pros of Christian Wood as a small ball 5, or not even a small ball 5, he's a great rebounder, as a stretch 5. I thought the pros and the ways that would work, they seemed very clear to me. I'm just much less clear if that's not the plan, whether it's going to be successful. I think it could be, but I think it's a gamble, and I don't know why a team that just went to the conference finals would feel the need to make big swings and gambles in that way. Again, this could all be clarified if they make a trade, and then all of a sudden, if your big rotation doesn't have Dwight Powell in it, then that's probably a pretty workable big man rotation. But as of right now, if they truly are content, if a trade doesn't materialize with taking this roster into the regular season, presumably filling the last contract with what seems like they're thinking more wing than guard. I don't know. I don't feel if that's what they do, I don't feel they learned the right lessons from the loss to the Warriors.
Because Luka's going to have like a 44% usage rate.
Right. Yeah. Like the whole, this whole thing has been like, oh, look, wait till Luka gets in shape. It's like they keep asking him to, they need him to be in a level of shape that, for what they're going to ask of him if this is the roster that I don't know if anybody can reach. Like, you want him to start running marathons on the side, actually, no national team for you. You're going to become a distance runner because we're gonna ask you to run that much on. I don't know, man. Again, logically, it still feels like a trade is what would make this make more sense. But I do sort of believe that they might just take this roster into the regular season. I don't think that I don't think that's the best, what they view as the best case scenario. But when you're trying to build through trades, it is dependent on everybody else. And they do not have the right set of players to, be an obvious player in trades, even though they certainly could still be successful and pull off something that does make this roster make more sense.
Well, Tim, thank you for your time. My wife is telling me I have to go. So everyone, have a nice Sunday and enjoy your 4th of July and be safe. Make sure that you have all 10 fingers tomorrow and on Tuesday. And we'll reconvene at some point. Tim and I will probably see each other at Summer League, and maybe we'll do something there. Who knows?
Oh, wait, you're going to Summer League?
Oh, yeah.
I'm out.
You're out?
Well, now that I know that you're going to be there, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas
we
can't
did that cool live show last time in y'all's. Do you remember that? Like the
I
one
do,
that was videotaped?
It was a good setup.
Cool.
It was a good setup. I'll see if we have something like that, and I'll bring you on the pod again. We'll make it
Talk soon.
Summer League transition. All right, see you, dude.
That's right. Bye.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.